Welcome to the Acupuncture Marketing School podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Grassick, and I'm here to help you get visible in your community, take marketing action with confidence, and get more patients in your practice and more money in your pocket every week. We both know you're a talented, passionate acupuncturist and that acupuncture has the power to change lives. So let's dive right into this episode and talk about how you can reach more patients. Hi there, welcome back to the Acupuncture Marketing School podcast. Today I'm joined by Nicole Lanni, functional nutritionist, hypnotherapist, and founder of Feeling Groovy Consulting. Nicole brings over 30 years of marketing expertise and 17 years in the wellness industry, helping wellness practitioners like acupuncturists and chiropractors grow their businesses in ways that feel good instead of stressful. In this episode, Nicole shares how a health crisis, spending 4 months in a coma from toxic mold exposure, led her to a completely new path. We also dive into how to market without feeling pushy, how to use testimonials in a way you might not have thought of before, and one powerful question that can help you uncover your niche. Hope you enjoy this episode with Nicole. Today's episode is sponsored by Jane, and I'm excited to invite you to a free live behind-the-scenes webinar that I'm hosting next week with the Jane team. Whether you're thinking about switching to Jane or just curious how it works, this is a great opportunity to see the platform in action. Join me and a Jane representative on Wednesday, March 26th at 12 p.m. Eastern Time for an inside look at Jane's features, the functionality, and what it's like to use it as your practice management software. You'll also get to ask all of your specific questions to help you make sure Jane is the right fit for your practice. Jane knows that switching EHRs is a big decision, and they're here to help you feel confident every step of the way. If you can't make it live, that's no problem. A replay will be sent to everyone who registers. The link is in the show notes to sign up. All right, let's get into this discussion with Nicole. Hi, Nicole. Thank you so much for joining me today. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me today, Michelle.
Before we get started, I will let you introduce yourself to the audience.
All right. Well, I'm Nicole. I'm the founder of Feeling Groovy Consulting. I have been a practitioner, a functional wellness practitioner for over 17 years. Have a strong background in sales and marketing for over 30 years. So now I combine my two loves and get to help practitioners with their sales and marketing. So spreading that ripple effect of wellness through other people.
That's such a nice way to put it, spreading that ripple effect of wellness. So you are also a nutritionist and you do functional blood work and I think also hypnotherapy and a number of other things. So you're also a practitioner for quite a few years as well.
Yeah, 17 years, quite some time. So.
Very nice.
And started with NLP and hypnotherapy, eventually went back to school and got a master's in nutrition, and then moved forward with my practice from there.
And I read on your website that you were in a coma from toxic mold exposure, and it sounds like that maybe started your wellness journey. Is that how you got into nutrition?
It is. So, yeah, back in 2001, I moved to this cute little house in California. Had no idea, like, it was clean, it was adorable. We knew nobody in California, so I had picked up my family and moved and thought, okay, we'll rent for 1 year. Like, just kind of get acclimated, right? And sure enough, within a couple of weeks, I was sick. And croupy cough. And nobody could figure out, like, oh, you have bronchitis, oh, you have pneumonia, oh, you have bronchitis. We don't know what's wrong with you. You have COPD. Like, I was getting the craziest diagnoses. And finally, a nurse practitioner actually had said to me, you don't happen to have any water leaks in your house, do you? And I was like, yeah, how did you know that? And she said, well, I'm beginning to wonder if you've had mold exposure. And my first reaction was, mold, my house is clean. I lived in Vegas all my life. And so we didn't hear about toxic mold. It was so dry. I don't think anything grows except for cactuses in Vegas, right? And so I was kind of offended at first. I had no idea what she was talking about. And she's like, no. I can give you some research on this. And she says, tell me about this water leak. So I started explaining to her that there was water coming in through the floor that nobody could find. The plumbers couldn't find it. The landlords couldn't find it. We couldn't find it. And every morning my bathroom floor was wet.
Weird.
And so moving fast forward, we tested the house for mold. The landlord was fantastic, actually. Tested the house for mold. And sure enough, there was the highest counts of Stachybotrys that they had ever had from that mold company in the home.
Oh my God.
And so fast forward 3 bronchoscopies later, trying to get this. It was actually growing in my lungs. And so, and my kids had it was interesting because my kids had my son was getting hives. My daughter all of a sudden had asthma, but they were going to a pediatrician and I was seeing a GP, right? So nobody was connecting the dots. My husband had some exposure and had some things, but they thought it was from substances at work because he was climbing in attics. So they thought it was like an environmental thing where he worked. So the nurse practitioner put it all together. She was the one who started realizing there's more to this picture. But I did have 3 bronchoscopies, and on the 3rd one, my body just said, okay, it's time to take a rest. And I was in the coma for a little over 4 months.
Wow, my goodness. And so when you came out of it, eventually that is when you went into nutrition?
I did. So I actually had an amazing pulmonary doctor, and he was an older gentleman. And when I did decide to rejoin everybody, right? So I say, when I decided to rejoin life, I asked him what I needed to do to live. I have kids, I have teenagers, I have, a life. What do I need to do to live? And I think his advice was the best advice anybody in health and wellness has ever given me. So he did say to me, he says, the first thing, he says, I think you're a Christian, but I don't know, and it really is none of my business. But whatever your faith is, I need you to magnify that by 10 because you have to believe you're going to get better. And he says, and then once you've done that, I need you to magnify it by 100 because belief is everything, right? No pressure. But you have to believe you're going to be better, and you have to have faith. You have to have a higher power. And I thought that was interesting. And he says, I don't care if you pray to a rock, a cat, God, Jesus, anybody, but whatever that is. And he was so funny. And so I was like, okay. And then I'm like, and number 2, what else do I have to do? And he said, he says, I want you to know that you get to hire and fire your doctors. And you always want doctors that remember that they're practicing medicine. Because if they're not practicing and they don't remember, they forget that they're there to find the answers, then you have the right to fire that doctor and find somebody else. And he says, I have doctors all over this country trying to figure out how to get this mold out of your body. And he says, so I hope you decide to keep me and not fire me. And he says, and the 3rd thing I know is being in this hospital and what you've experienced for the last year and a half, I'm not getting you better in this environment. So we need to go outside of this environment to get you healthy. And so if you're open, I can give you all kinds of suggestions. And I've set some things up for you that are pretty spectacular. So I was like, of course I was open to anything. So his wife took me to yoga 3 days a week instead of doing physical therapy. And I literally would sit against the wall, it took a little bit of time for me to regain muscle strength and the things that I needed. And so she was fabulous. And then he said, I've put you with somebody who's doing some groundbreaking work with mold and hyperbaric chambers. So this was back in 2001, and they were only using hyperbaric chambers for the bends at that point, right? Yeah. So it wasn't mainstream like it is now, where we have HBOTs available to us. So I did intensive hyperbaric chamber, and then he set me up with a nutritionist, and we took out any type of food that could exasperate mold. And I was so intrigued, and she was such a great soul that I was like, okay, this is an interesting thing. If we can help people with food and diet, I want to know more. And so it took a good year before I was finally not coughing 24 hours a day. My eye had kind of like come out, like I can't even explain. It was pretty awful. My eye looked like it was hanging out of the socket, and my eye went back until I really felt healthy again. Like I could really be in the world and be a contributor. Eventually I felt like I had to do something and move this forward and help other people. Because there's a lot of people out there that just don't know how to get well.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, what a story. I think your doctor's advice to fire anyone who forgets why they're really in medicine to get to the root of the problem. I think that's amazing, although very rare to hear.
He was a rare soul, and we did become friends, and he passed away. Like I said, he was older at the time. He was in his 70s still practicing. And when he passed away a few years ago, I was literally brokenhearted. Like, oh my goodness, this man, not only did he save my life, he changed the course of my life, right? Like he really made that much of an impact in me that I was able to, help thousands of people at this point. So I live in gratitude to him every day.
That's so nice. And so you mentioned you also had a sales and marketing background. So does that mean that you got your nutrition degree, kind of opened your own practice and just scaled very quickly? What was that journey like?
So I actually started down the NLP world first, which was interesting. And I had a sales background it started with Tupperware, which is kind of funny. So I started selling Tupperware kind of on a dare, which was, if somebody gives me a challenge, I usually will take a challenge. So I ended up selling Tupperware, which sounds kind of funny to me when I laugh about it now. But I did make over $1 million selling Tupperware.
Wow.
And I learned so many sales skills and so many people skills and really started helping other, predominantly women, obviously, at that point, how to sell without being salesy, how to sell without being genuine. So when I went down and I was coaching women in business. So at that point, when I started taking NLP classes, I really learned a lot of sales mastery, which I was able to help numerous women become the top 10 in their industry with their MLMs. And so I loved what I did. I absolutely loved working with people, but I really wanted to go down more of the health route. So I created kind of NLP therapy techniques on my own, introduced hypnotherapy to that as well, which started a wellness journey for me, and then went back to school and got my nutrition degree. And then eventually became a functional blood work specialist. So I think it's that evolution of like, what can you do to help your clients and where is your passion and where does that lead you? Because I don't think learning is linear. I think it changes. Like we evolve as people and so do our practices.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I love that concept that learning is not linear. And I've been in practice 15 years now, and I have noticed this for myself and for so many of my clients that it feels like the place that you're at in your own journey impacts the kind of patients who are suddenly available to come see you. It's like wherever you are, whether you're brand new or you've been in business a long time, there are always people who are in like just the right spot, and you're in just the right spot to help them. Because sometimes I have this conversation mostly with new practitioners, and they feel like, I don't know enough. They're thinking about their mentors who've been doing this 20 or 30 years. They're like, how can I compete with that? Why would anyone choose me? You're like, it doesn't really matter. Where you're at right now, there are people who are just like the perfect fit who are going to click with where you're at in your journey.
Yeah.
So, but it's always hard to convince people to put themselves out there. If they're feeling a little self-conscious about being new. But once they do, I think they get their groove and they realize it's the truth.
Yeah. It's just getting that one. Get that one. And then 2 will come, and then 5 will come, and then 100 will come. Like, it's just taking that first step, that first leap, I think, and I always tell practitioners, you know more. You always know more than what your patient or your client knows.
Yeah.
No matter what, you know more. And so I think that we are obligated when we decide to become healers of any kind. I think we're obligated to share those gifts. And if we don't share those gifts, how unfair is that to the world? Right? Like it becomes our responsibility to be able to share. And so I talk about that a lot. Like it really is our responsibility when we have this knowledge and we have these gifts that it is our responsibility to go out there and share and help other people be well.
So I would extrapolate that and say that means we have a responsibility to do marketing, which I know lots of people don't like to hear. But I always come at it from the angle that you can't help people if they don't know that you exist. And I know that, all wellness people, not just acupuncturists, want so badly to help, right?
Yeah.
But how can you make that happen? Especially how can you make that happen at scale? How can you really grow something if you keep that secret that you can help all to yourself, right? You don't want to be the best kept secret in your community.
Exactly. I helped an acupuncturist create a group program it's one of my favorite. Like what she came up with, I thought was incredible. She created a healing circle. So in her practice, she actually put chairs in a circle. Awesome. And so she had 8 chairs in a circle, and she would have these healing parties. So instead of seeing clients individually, she would have them heal together.
Awesome.
And so she would bring in she would have Fireman Day, or she would bring in school teachers, or she would bring in whatever it was. She would create these groups of people. And so she would go around and do her thing with each person, but she would have different music on, vibrations, things going on. And she really felt that healing could be a group thing. So we were trying to figure out group programs for her. And so she could see more people at one time, so she could scale that business even in her practice, not necessarily doing functional medicine or being online. She still wanted to do this in her office. And so it was something that we came up with it became such a big hit, and it is now 10 years later, and she still does healing circles on a very regular basis. I love to get her newsletters because I'm always seeing what's the next tribe, what's the next, right? She announces, and it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
I know that one of the things you teach your marketing clients is how to approach marketing with authenticity. And that's something that we talk about all the time on this podcast. How do you kind of walk people through that? Because it's a big fear, right? We're afraid to be visible. We are afraid to be misinterpreted if we're visible. We don't want to come across as pushy or salesy because we're all brick and mortar, right, for the most part. And we live in or near the communities where we practice. We're community members, and so we don't ever want to come across as gross in our marketing. And even though I find that, I don't know if I've ever come across acupuncturist marketing that was gross. It's like a persistent fear. So the authenticity piece and helping people approach it, I think, is really important.
I think showing up in social media these days is really important, and how we show up as people. If somebody was to go to my personal page, they will see I'm posting marketing things, right? I'm posting little clips. I'm posting my 89-year-old mother-in-law dancing the other night at an Italian dinner. Fun. Right? I'm posting me being silly with my husband or my grandkids. And so social media, I think, is just such a big part of who the world has become, right? And I think if we show up as ourselves and we show people that we are your neighbor, we are part of the community, we are, your next door neighbor, your friend, the PTA mom, your best friend's son's brother, sister-in-law. We are that person that generally loves people. That's what I think people want to see. They want to see that you're real. And oftentimes when people think marketing, or they think social media, or they think branding, I live my brand. So, if you see my office behind me, if you see my hair, if you see my colors, I am feeling groovy. That is who I am. And
I love no matter it. It's very on brand. I wish everyone could see. They'll have to go to the YouTube channel to watch it. And then they can actually see your gorgeous brand.
And so I literally, I am my brand. My brand came after me. And I think sometimes we chase our brand, trying to figure out what that is. But sometimes when we go inside, that's when we find out what our brand should be. And then it becomes more authentic. So when I was coming up with a name for my wellness center, you're looking up you're Googling. At that time, we didn't have ChatGPT, you guys, or like, you know, AI is fantastic. But even when you put in AI, if you were to say like, help me name a wellness center, it would give you some of the goofiest names, right? You know, Greenleaf Wellness Center, Healing Hearts, right? Like all these things. And there's nothing wrong with those names if that's who you are. And my husband had said to me, Nicole, how do you want people to feel when they leave your center? And I said, I just want everybody to feel groovy. And hence, that's how my name came apart, because that's really how I wanted people to feel. So sometimes when you look at like, and I am my brand, like that word groovy probably wouldn't come out of your mouth, right? That's not, that groovy brand isn't.
I would like to feel groovy. I don't know,
Yeah.
right? Like it's not my brand, but I definitely resonate with it being the way that you're making me feel.
Yeah. And so that was just something that, you know, that's because that's who I am and that's who I've lived. So that was a natural word that came out of my mouth. And so for me, my brand became so easy and fun and remarkable, and there's no stress. It's who I am. It's authentic. And so when we look inside of like who we are a little bit, sometimes in the healing world, that gives us the best branding, which then gives us the best marketing, and then in turn makes us even more authentic when you just get to be you. But I think the biggest thing is like not being inauthentic on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or YouTube. You really need to show up as who you are. If you don't wear a lot of makeup, then you don't wear a lot of makeup, right? Like, you guys, I literally put on a little tiny natural blush and some lip gloss every day. That's it, right? Like, I don't show up as somebody that I'm not on social media, because that gives our community this mixed message of like, who is this person, right? So show up as who you are. And I think that's something that practitioners don't realize, that that's what people are looking for. They don't want to feel intimidated. They want to feel like if they come into your building, they want to know that you will give them a hug or a handshake or a pat on the back or whatever that is, that human touch, that caring. That's what they want to see on social media. They want to see that you have knowledge, but they also want to see that you are human.
Yeah, to put a little bit of personality in there. Sometimes marketing students will say, basically they're very private and it freaks them out to show up as themselves on social media, really to show up at all, right? And so what I suggest is fun, showing up to their comfort level, right? So, you know, if you don't want to share your kids, don't share your kids, obviously.
Right.
Or whatever it might be, but to pick like 3 categories that they're really comfortable sharing. And it could be like the books they're reading and their pets, and maybe like landscapes when they're out hiking.
Yeah.
So that people get to know them as you're describing. They can understand like what kind of person is this. I'm a big reader, so when people are sharing the books that they like on social media, I'm always like, tell me about it. And I think you get to know a lot about a person through not only the books that they recommend, but the way that they talk about them, how they talk about their interest in anything that they're recommending. Food is a good category. And these are all categories where you don't have to take a ton of pictures of yourself.
Yeah.
But people get to know, like, they just get to know you. And it really, I know it's almost become a repetitive thing where we talk about the no like trust factor. Everybody's like, yeah. And be like, okay, just because you've heard of it before doesn't mean it's not still true. It's still
The other
working.
thing is doing videos, and I think people are scared to do videos. You guys,
For sure.
I was petrified to do videos.
To get started, it's like that hump you have to get over.
It is that hump that you have to get over. And so I think that when people see you in a live video, even if it's for 10 seconds, like it doesn't have to be long, 10 seconds, just show up. It makes people realize that you're real. And so even going on, I know it's scary, Facebook Live, and doing 10 seconds, just talking about something that happened in your office that day, right? Like today, I literally posted that, hey guys, I'm going to be on this podcast. with an acupuncturist marketing school. How cool is that? Right? Now, it was just a post. It was just a post. But I'll go on live a little later today and I'll share that excitement. And it will probably be a very short clip because I don't love to be on long. But say, oh my goodness, I had this fabulous interview. You know, how are you showing up today? That's it. It doesn't have to be long. You just have to do it once. And once you do it, you'll realize it's not as scary. Sometimes, I'll give you an example. Oh my goodness, I was so afraid to go on camera. And I came across a product, because I'm all about food. I love food. Food heals. And so I'm all about the food. And so I found a product, and this was a few years ago. And it's still to this day one of my favorite products. So I always teach people to find food with clean ingredients, right? The less ingredients, the better. And one of my biggest pet peeves is people that say, oh, I buy almond milk. And I'm like, yes, and what's on those ingredient list, right? Because there's like 30 things in that almond milk. So I found an almond milk that was organic almonds, sea salt, and I think it was filtered water. That's it. But they have a chocolate one too that just adds cacao to it.
Wow.
Well, I was so excited when I tasted these. I literally, without even thinking about it, I went live and went, oh my gosh, you guys, and I'm holding this bottle. Like, you have to try this. Like, this is the best almond milk that I have ever found, and I absolutely love it. And it comes in chocolate. Like, I don't know anybody who doesn't want to taste a chocolate once in a while, but, you know, like, I have a sweet tooth too every once in a while. And oh my goodness, this is an incredible product. That was it. I went off live.
Awesome.
I think that post to this day in that group is the #1 post that I've ever had.
I am not surprised.
Because I was so excited about that product and it showed who I was. Like, I was literally so excited. I was like almost dancing around in my kitchen like, I love this product. If you want to know what it is, I'll just tell you, because people might say, what is this product? It's Malk, M-A-L-K.
Ooh, I'll look for it.
And it comes in vanilla, it comes in unflavored, and it comes in a chocolate. It's fantastic. See, to this day, I could this is a great, clean product. And so it was so genuine and from my heart, like, I really wanted to share. It wasn't me selling anything. It wasn't me, because I don't sell Malk. I don't make an affiliate fee off of Malk. I'm just probably their best supporter, because I've told so many people, they should put me in a commercial. I've told so many people about this product and it comes from here. So if you go live, if something exciting like that happens in your life, share it, because that's what people want to see. Like I said, that post went viral for me. And awesome. In that group, I think it literally, because people have looked at it over and over and over again, I think at this point it has like 75 or 100,000 views.
Wow.
And it was just from me being totally me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think if only we could all bring that enthusiasm to just talking about acupuncture. Because I've talked to hundreds and hundreds of acupuncturists over the years. I mean, there's a couple things we have in common, but one of them is how passionate everyone is and how much they believe that acupuncture changes people's lives, whether they had their own experience and that sent them to acupuncture school, or whether it's just what they've been witnessing in their practice. But when they start to tell you about the people that come and you're their last resort, they've tried everything, nothing is working, no one knows what's wrong with them, all the diagnostics came back negative, and then they get acupuncture and they start feeling better. Everyone has those stories and that experience, and it's like, how can we bring that truth, that like true genuine enthusiasm to the marketing that we do, instead of feeling so vulnerable about the idea of being there?
You know, you could actually ask your clients, would you do a video testimonial for me? Yeah. If I asked you 3 questions, would you answer these on camera for me? And so that could be such an easy thing. Like, why did you come in? Mm-hmm. Were you scared to come in? Some people think that you're going to be like hammering nails into them. They don't realize what a needle is, right? They don't understand what these actually do. And so they're scared. They think needles are pain, right? So were you scared to come in? What made you come in? And what has your results been? That's
a
it.
Great idea.
They'll tell you afterwards, oh my goodness, Dr. Michelle, da 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 da, right? Like they'll tell you you just have to ask them a couple little prompts. And most people, if you ask them, would be happy to share, their testimonials. And so that's something great for social media as well, or to put in your newsletter. Maybe you could showcase one of your clients in a weekly newsletter that you're doing. Like, this is what's happened with this client. Do you know anybody who has whatever, right? I use acupuncture after the mold as well. So use acupuncture.
Very nice.
So we tried all kinds of things. My doctor was so open for me trying, the nutritionist, acupuncture, yoga, the hyperbaric chamber. We did all kinds of chiropractic. We combined all kinds of things to help me get better because he knew the answer wasn't in that hospital. Right. And so, but if you could even spotlight a customer on your newsletter and ask your other clients, like, who do you know? That's a great way to market without being salesy. Like, this is Lisa, this is.
Yeah. And it really puts the spotlight on acupuncture and what is possible instead of the person feeling like they have to say, I can help you, or they feel like marketing is going to be all about them.
Right.
And if they can turn it around and focus on what is acupuncture capable of, how can it change people's lives, what is the specific change that it's making, it takes a ton of pressure off. Right? Now we're not talking about us anymore, or we're just like the vehicle for this therapy that has incredible results.
Exactly. And I would share like where acupuncture came from. Like a weekly newsletter could be so powerful, and if you don't have time to do it, you can have a VA do it or somebody in your office do it, right? Your teenage daughter who wants to learn journalism, whoever, you can find a high school or a college kid who wants to earn a few dollars on the side, and that's all they do is put your newsletter together. Right? So it doesn't have to be an extra big cost for you as well. But a weekly newsletter goes so powerful in wellness practices. So, and there is a formula I think that should go in a newsletter, so something educational for certain. You want to give them an educational piece. You want to give them a warm welcome of like, hello, this is what's going on this week at our clinic, right? Yeah. An educational piece. And then some kind of a testimonial, some kind of like a breakthrough that somebody's had, right? And then maybe some kind of special that you're offering.
Oh, I love it.
And that could just be a little thing. Like you might, some acupuncturists offer herbs or supplements or whatever. So you might offer 10% on this herbal remedy, right? So it doesn't have to be a big anything, it doesn't have to be, I'm giving you half off a service. It could be 10% off if you happen to buy this product this month or this week or whatever.
And do you feel like, let's say someone has Google reviews, maybe they could copy and paste like one Google review and put it in their email newsletter? Because if someone's published a Google review, it's already public, right? So I wouldn't think you'd have to like get permission from them to reshare, because I know that's always a concern, is like resharing anything about a patient with their consent, but like use the reviews that you already have that are already public, because I wouldn't assume that people who are on your newsletter list necessarily have read your Google reviews. Why would they? Right? So it's kind of like a way of repurposing content.
Yeah, Google reviews, Yelp reviews, any kind of reviews like that are out there. You could definitely pull those from Yelp as well. And you could put a little sign up in your office that says, would you love to be our spotlight of the week?
Yeah, that's so cute.
And give them a little something, right?
Yeah.
Like give them a little thank you gift. So
I thought I lost you for a sec. I know that one of the things that you talk about sometimes is a stress-free sales system. Is it stress-free sales system or stress-free marketing system?
It's marketing
But
system.
marketing, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love anything that involves the words marketing and system, and of course stress-free. So I'd love for you to teach us about that.
So I think with wellness practitioners of any kind, whether you're an acupuncturist, a chiropractor, a health coach, any wellness pro that there is, a nutritionist, anything in that realm, I joke around, and I'm just going to use a chiropractor. I'm going to go off script of acupuncturists because it goes the same for them as well. When I'm talking to them, especially if they want to scale and have a niche, right? I kind of laugh because I have a process that we go through of choosing a niche, right?
Okay.
That is like really stress free. And so, but I laugh because acupuncturists are the same as chiropractors. If I was to ask 20 of you today, who would you like to help? Your answer would be everyone.
Yes.
Everyone, everyone can use acupuncture, right?
Truth.
And so I really have learned to tap into your genius of like, what is your passion? Like if you could only teach one thing and help one type of person for 90 days, who was your favorite client? And what were
I
their
love that.
results?
I would choose cosmetic acupuncture.
Oh, see?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and why? Why would you choose cosmetic acupuncture?
I know this sounds so strange. I love needling in the face. I sound like a psychopath. I
No.
think it's so enjoyable. It's like there's patterns and there's special techniques. I also love the facial massage that you get to do afterwards. And I really enjoy how surprised people are when it's working. And also when their other symptoms start feeling better, like my digestion's also better. It's kind of like a feel-good treatment for them and for me. I just think it's warm and fuzzy all around.
See, and I love, for those of you who are watching YouTube, Michelle just lit up when she talked about this. Like she's beaming from ear to ear and she has a special glow when she's talking about this. So when you think about who is that favorite client, what was that favorite technique, what was that? If you're scaling, an easy way to do it is to find a niche and to find a niche market. So Michelle, with that being said, who does cosmetology acupuncture? Who is your target market? What does that avatar look like?
It's such a good question. I feel like I have two avatars, and most of the cosmetic acupuncturists I talk to have something similar. So one is in their like late 20s and then their 30s, and they're in it for prevention, right? They're the people who see their friends getting Botox for no reason and don't want to do that, right? They don't want the preventative Botox. And then the other group I would say is 50 to 65, right? And the people who have some fine lines and wrinkles and are realizing like, oh yeah, it's time to do something. And I like both groups. I think both groups are really fun. And ultimately very similar, though maybe they don't realize it.
Yeah, absolutely. So women, it would be your target market, right?
Oh, I'd love to treat men.
Well,
They're not as interested, but we'll go with women.
sure. But in this case, when
Yeah.
you're talking about this, right, fine lines and wrinkles is usually women, whether it's preventative or post-pregnant, like in my age, like I'm almost 60 years old, right?
Your skin is great.
Thank you. Thank you. And so, and so I would be your perfect avatar, right? So then when we look at that, we would say, okay, how does she reach women of my age, like in that 50 to 60 range, 50 to 65, who are worried about this, who are worried about the turkey neck, who are worried about some of these I feel like I've earned. I have very few, I have great skin. I have a very few wrinkles. But as we get older, we get a little conscious of like what's going on here, right? So, and there are some of it that I feel like I love my laugh lines because I laugh a lot. And so I love that. And my grandkids, like, it's so funny. I have a grandson who pets my hair and he says, Grandma, I love your hair. And then he'll say to me, Grandma, when you laugh, you get an extra smile.
Cute.
And
oh
so
my gosh.
he sees that as like a grandma thing. Right?
Yeah.
So I don't really want to take that away. Now, Would I want to take away my 11s? Of course. Like women don't want 11s, right? Like up on here. So that would be a fun post of, do you have 11s? Right? So you could definitely, talk about the 11s, because women do not want these little lines up here, right? They don't want those. And so you could create a whole little campaign about the 11s, because that's why people do Botox. They don't want these lines up here. They don't want them over here. So you could really just do a fun campaign of, on a scale of 0 to 11, where are you?
With your 11s. Oh, I
With
love
your
that.
11s.
I also really like the idea of creating a post asking people about the wrinkles that they would like to keep. Because I think that there are a lot of people who have parts of their face that remind them that they've lived a great life.
Yeah.
And, right? I've had patients who've had scars on their face, and when I ask if they want me to work on it, they are like, nope, leave it alone. It belongs to me, and I love it. I'm like, all right, it's all good.
See, that's a great marketing post of, loving the lines that you do have. Because I don't want to get rid of my laugh lines, especially because my little grandson thinks to me it's an extra smile.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's so sweet.
Right? And you can use that in your marketing. If you want to, use my story.
Awesome.
You can have that.
I hope all the cosmetic acupuncturists out there are going to do that.
Yeah, please.
Create that post.
Create that post. Use me as an example. And that's the other thing you can do, is talk within your own communities, right? Of like what's working for you, right? Because you're not in the same neighborhoods usually. It's not like there's an acupuncturist on every corner. Trust me, I live in California.
Not where I live.
Not where you live? No, not where I live in California. I live in Southern California, and I can promise you there's not an acupuncturist on every corner. We need more of you. We truly need all of you. And so, I want you to think about that and being parts of communities and really getting out there and learning how to network without being like pushy. So, I used to run a women's networking group, and it was great to tap into. There was a woman who came in, and her niche as an acupuncturist.
Sorry to interrupt you. I think your phone is ringing.
No. Oh, apologies. It's my phone did not get turned off. I'm like, my personal phone isn't ringing. My apologies, guys.
Yeah. No worries.
So she would come in, and her niche was women who had menstrual issues. And so she would go into women's market, like networking groups, and she would talk about, if you have this, then these are some of the things that we could do. I can't tell you how many women from that organization became her client.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, because she had a niche, and she was smart, and she'd go out and then she would say she was an acupuncturist. So she didn't leave. When I did a lot of hypnotherapy, same thing with acupuncturists, right? Like if you went to a networking event, people always asked, they didn't want to know who you were. They wanted to know what you did.
Right.
Which when we go to networking events, we should really be learning who people are, not necessarily what they do. What is their passion? Right? Like if I was to ask you what your passion is, and you could easily say, oh my goodness, I love cosmetic, to help people with their fine lines and wrinkles, right? They wouldn't necessarily know you're an acupuncturist at that point.
Right.
Well, they would be interested, right? So I used to tell people, I help people overcome some of our top 3 fears that most people have. And that brought them interest, like public speaking is a top fear, snakes, spiders, that's snakes and spiders are top fear, and using public restrooms.
Oh, interesting.
So, and then they would say, oh my goodness, that's fascinating. I never led in with, I was a hypnotherapist. I led in with what I could do. So when you're meeting people, think about what are some of your favorite things to do within your practice. And Michelle could easily say, after that conversation we just had, I love helping women get rid of their fine lines and wrinkles. Right?
Yeah. I think that is so smart, because it's almost like you are leading with the outcome that people want, right? It's really hooking them in with talking about the symptoms and the outcome.
Right.
And I have read this so many times that people don't really care how you help them. They just want to feel better, or they want to meet their goals. One of my favorite marketing mentors would say it could be acupuncture, it could be chiropractic, I could stand on my head and cluck like a chicken. But if you're going to make me feel better, I will choose any of those that makes that happen. Because what people are so interested in is it going to work? How am I going to feel? What's it going to be like to get to be symptom-free, for example? So
absolutely.
That's so smart.
Yeah. So lead in with the benefits. Lead in with what you do. Don't lead in with, "Hi, I'm Michelle. I'm an acupuncturist," because there's going to be.
I can't wait to put needles in your face.
Right?
A good lead.
I know. People are going to pull away, right? So when I would say, "Hi, I'm Nicole. I'm a hypnotherapist," some people would like literally shake your hand. What do you do? I'm a hypnotherapist. And other people, you just feel their body like pulling away, like, I am not going to cluck like a chicken, right? Like, because they had this fear of what it was. And the same thing I think happens with acupuncture as well. When you're talking about, needling your face, people are like, holy moly, what is this crazy lady? So lead in with what you can do, and then you can tell them how you do it when the time is right.
Yeah. Yeah. That's such a good idea. I also was not thinking of cluck like a chicken and associating it with hypnotherapy. That is actually what my mentor would say. Stand on my head and cluck like a chicken.
Yeah.
Well, gosh, thank you so much for all of your insights. I've really enjoyed this conversation. I do have one more question for you before we wrap up that I ask all of my guests, and that is, what is your definition of success?
My definition of success is probably very different than most. When you can go to bed at night feeling good about what you've done for the day.
That's so nice.
Yeah. I think success obviously can mean financial. It can mean having the right family, the right, the things that you want in your life, the tangible things, driving a nice car, going on all the trips, all of those things can be successful. But when you can go to bed at night knowing that you've helped so many people, that to me is really the true definition of success, is sharing your gift with the world.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Thank you for being here. How can everyone find you online if they'd like to work with you? How can they reach out?
So I have a free giveaway. I love to give this away because you can reach out to me, book an appointment. So, and it is an audit of your business, which sounds kind of funny, but it is just like a wellness business quick audit. And so you can find that at feelinggroovyconsulting.com/audit. And it just gives you an audit, it's like 15 questions, you guys. It's just a self-audit. And then you can book an appointment with me right through there.
Amazing. That sounds so fun. That's like my favorite kind of thing.
Super fun, super easy. Just some self-reflection as well of like, what am I doing well with marketing? What am I not doing well? Where do I need help? How do I improve? Always just getting some feedback. So feedback is just feedback, right? Like feedback is just information. And I would love to connect with any of you.
Amazing. Well, I will put the link in the show notes so that people can access it really easily and get in touch with you. Thank you again.
Thank you so much, Michelle. This was like such an honor to be on your show. I'm so grateful, and I can't wait to, now, you know what I'm going to be Googling?
Oh, I hope it's cosmetic acupuncture.
It is going to be cosmetic acupuncture. Like, now I want to know more. And isn't that interesting? Like, I learned something new today. And I was like, wait, I want to know more about this. So I will be spending the next few minutes Googling cosmetic acupuncture. So thank you so much for giving me something that I didn't even know was a possibility. I truly appreciate that.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much. Don't forget, if you've been curious about Jane or thinking about making the switch, join me for a free live webinar with the Jane team on Wednesday, March 26th. We'll walk through the platform, show you how it works, and answer all of your questions. A replay will be sent to everyone who registers. The link is in the show notes to sign up. Hope to see you there.